Hello, good evening. Thank you for joining us. It's been described as the end of an era. Today, 899 people were told that they would be losing their jobs at the factory behind me as the company looks to end aircraft manufacture. Now, as our business correspondent Paul Murphy reports, while the news is devastating enough, there is anger tonight at the way the whole announcement by BAE Systems has been handled.
Workers here are no strangers to redundancy announcements, such as the nature of defence spending. But no one here has experienced anything quite like this. 899 jobs are to go, and with it, a factory that's been making aircraft for nearly a century.
End of an era, 26 years, and you find out on the news before you even find out anything else.
Families, kids. Yeah, bad day, bad day. Go on, mate.
There's anger here at the way the company's handled this announcement, previewing it in the media, and a feeling that BAE has betrayed a loyal local workforce.
Absolute disgrace in the way they've treated good people on this site. For a company that purports to hold very high standards in its ethical behaviour, it needs to look itself in the mirror and ask itself some serious questions about the way it treated staff.
Looming over this site, a Hawk jet, a reminder of what was once the mainstay of this factory. Demand for it has now all but dried up. The precise details of the redundancy plan are still to emerge, but it's known that 899 will lose their jobs and around 400 staff, mainly office workers, will stay. A 90-day consultation period has now begun.
This is a terrible day. It's a really, really gloomy time. I can't remember anything as bad as this in my 14 years here.
And Alan, Alan made the point to me yesterday, North Hull's got the worst unemployment arrangements in the country in terms of numbers of applicants for jobs to jobs available. So we've really got a tough job for the whole of Hull, the whole of the East Riding.
In a statement, Ian King, the chief executive, said, "We understand that this is a time of uncertainty for our employees, and we are committed to working with them and their representatives to explore ways of mitigating the potential job losses." All 1,300 staff were sent home early today to think about the enormity of what's happened and share it with their families. Highly skilled men and women who must now look for work in a climate of limited opportunities. The next 24 hours will see union meetings and the lobbying of government ministers. But the overwhelming feeling among the workforce here is one of pessimism about their futures and the future of this factory. Paul Murphy, BBC Look North at BAE Systems in Brough.
Paul Murphy with that report. Well, before I came down here tonight, I spoke to the Business Minister, Mark Prisk, and I asked him what the government was going to do to try and lessen the blow for workers from this site who are now facing redundancy.
Well, you're right, it is a real blow to the individuals and to the communities severely affected. What we've been doing, first of all, is talking not only to the company but also to local members of Parliament, particularly David Davis, to make sure that we understand the background to this. As both he and Alan Johnson have pointed out, there is a consultation that must take place. It must be done properly, and we'll want to make sure that happens. But given that, we're working with the company to make sure that, first of all, we have the rapid response service, which is designed to help people facing redundancy, helps them in that process. And then we're looking at the longer-term question, obviously, first of all, how to help with the skills and the talents of the people who are facing redundancy, how we can match them with other opportunities, but also looking at the prospects for the site.
This situation hasn't just arisen overnight. I mean, order books have been declining for months, if not years, at Brough. Couldn't more have been done to enable BAE to secure, in the past, more MOD orders and avoid this dreadful day?
I think the problem for Brough and indeed for other parts of BAE is that half their market now is in the United States, and therefore the changes that the regime, the administration there are actually putting in place are going to affect them particularly badly. So we understand that clearly all defence budgets are under pressure, but obviously if half your market is the United States and that budget is shrinking, then clearly it has a significant impact on the business.
You say that United States, but I mean the defence industry has changed so much here, hasn't it, after the review last October? I mean, was that too quick, do you think?
Now, I think when we talk to the company and we ask them what are the root causes, clearly there are issues around the Hawk and its long-standing programme and future, but also the question, as they put it to us, that, you know, the importance of the Joint Strike Fighter, the F-35, is crucial, and that's something that's under great pressure in the United States.
And haven't your government and previous governments let down the workforce by failing to commission the right sorts of planes required for the future?
Well, government's first of all got to make sure that it's got the defence policy that's right for the security of the nation. Following from that comes an effective industrial approach. Now, what we've taken the approach in the last 18 months is to look at all of those programmes that are currently running, sadly many of them over budget and causing great difficulties, and look at what we can reasonably afford. But more importantly than that is to make sure that the talents of the individuals are not lost, which is why last year we set up the Skills and Jobs Retention Group, deliberately designed to take those talented individuals, perhaps in the military aerospace field, and look at their ability to transfer into things like civil aerospace, where there are strong opportunities.
Minister, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Business Minister talking to me earlier. We're joining me live here outside the site at Brough is the former Labour Minister, of course, local MP Alan Johnson, and former Shadow Minister, Conservative MP for this area, David Davis. Gentlemen, good evening to you. United in wanting to help the plant and its workforce, what can you actually do?
Well, the first thing we can do is challenge the decision. I mean, they're starting down the first 90 days of a consultation process, legally required to explain, to be transparent, give us all the information as to why they made the decision, and legally required to consider all alternatives put to them. So that's the first step. Now, one has to face facts. I don't want to raise hopes unnecessarily that that's a long shot, but that's the first thing we have to do. If we can't make that succeed, then the next step is what you were talking to the Minister to some extent about, and I've talked to him twice in the last couple of days, seeing what we can do to find work for the 900 people losing their jobs.
In reality, Mr Johnson, we can't actually save the jobs, can we?
Well, I think we can have a good try. I think, as David says, it would be, I think, foolish to raise people's hopes. But this 90-day period is really serious because we were questioning management both yesterday and today about how they came to this conclusion. I think there's some flaws in their argument. And this is a historic site with a highly skilled workforce, crucial to UK manufacturing as well as the region. And so I think we have to use that period seriously.
Was it inevitable that we were going to be at this point? I mean, as soon as you heard the Defence Review just over a year ago? I mean,
no, in fact, David and I mean, we fought together to get a government contract for Hawk in 2005 when it looked like the plant would close. We've been working with the unions here so it's not all their eggs in one basket, so they take in other work as well as Hawk. And that was going on until very, very recently.
Yeah, and at the time when we were making that decision, or talking through that decision with the senior management, their argument was this is in order to enable Brough to survive in the long term. That was exactly the reasoning.
Have we been ordering the right and enough planes? Is that part of it?
Well, I think you've got to order what you can afford, and you've got to order the right things for the Army and the Navy and the Air Force. You've got to actually get the right kit for our military in the field. And then after that, again, as the Minister said, after that, try and make sure you get the right industrial policy behind it.
The reality is tonight there's going to be many people watching the television right now that their family is devastated by this. How do you think of the way it's been handled? I mean, I know your leader thinks it's
awful. And it's the worst news delivered in the worst possible way. I mean, we were talking to the staff here and to the unions here yesterday who'd been told nothing but could read on the internet and see on the media the number of jobs that look like being lost here, and the plant closing, manufacturing being lost here. And they didn't know that till this morning.
And bluntly, this is the third time that I've heard about redundancies at Brough from the media rather than from the management.
Why does it happen?
Well, sometimes there are reasons for it. Sometimes it's because they had to tell the stock exchange or whatever. But this time, frankly, it's a disgrace. And the company themselves, I think, are ashamed of it. When we talked to them, they put their hands up and said they're ashamed.
So it's a cock-up.
It's an absolute cock-up by BAE. And, you know, given the sensitivity of this, given they're going to be telling people here, not that they're losing jobs, they're used to that, they've downsized, they've cooperated, they've been flexible, but at the end of 80 years of manufacturing here, to do that in such a cack-handed way is a disgrace.
And can I just make one point, Peter? You know, this workforce is a brilliant workforce. I mean, both in politics and in business. They're flexible, they work hard, they're efficient, they've got good industrial relations. This is a terrible way to treat them.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for joining us tonight at the site. Most grateful to you. Well, BAE Systems has for decades been, of course, Brough's biggest employer, but many local businesses as well rely heavily on trade from the local workers at the workforce and at the factory. They too will be counting the cost tonight, or thinking about the cost of the job losses. Well, our communities correspondent Vicky Johnson has been finding out what today's news, the impact it'll have on businesses in the town.
There was, of course, only one topic of conversation at this cafe in Brough this morning. The news of so many job losses is a huge blow, and not just to the workers and their families.
It's sad, you know, that it's come to this after all these years. So I'd like to say it would survive, but we will probably struggle, like most businesses will at the beginning.
Keith Heaney knows exactly how many of the workers will be feeling. He was made redundant from the site in 2009 after 34 years' service.
It was definitely a lump in my throat on that final day. It's a real community, and it was leaving the people that was the hardest thing.
For Martin Credland, another former worker, redundancy has meant driving to Doncaster every day for a job that's just not as good.
It's 40 miles and 40 minutes. Pay's not as good as aerospace, not by a long chalk, and the conditions of working in, dirty, very dirty.
Martin knew what it was like to work at the factory when it gave Brough its proud identity. Eileen Jones too used to work there, along with her husband, father, brother, nephew and son.
It was just a family business, you know, everybody was... everybody in the village, you knew somebody who worked, you know. Yeah, very sad.
But the character of the town has long been changing. The decline in BAE's fortunes over recent years has ironically coincided with a massive expansion of Brough. There are now around 10,000 people living here. That's about double the figure of a decade ago. And it's this rapidly increasing population which will ensure the future viability of the town.
We are already bigger than Market Weeks and bigger than Pocklington. We are expanding, we are consolidating, but it would be better that the factory continued rather than went.
Many residents now fear there'll soon be very few mementos of the town's once proud history. Vicky Johnson, BBC Look North, Brough.
Vicky Johnson reporting. Well, our correspondent Paul Murphy has spent the whole day since early this morning talking to the workers and union representatives who's with us now. What's the impression that you get of how this news has been received?
Well, you spoke to the MPs just then, Peter, and they reflected the anger felt by the workforce at the way in which this was managed as a news event by BAE Systems, leaked and previewed heavily through the media. Enormous anger about that. A bigger, deeper anger, though, because there was a feeling here that the pain they'd taken in recent months, smaller redundancies that had happened here, was a panacea. They were sold that by the company as a panacea, and it clearly wasn't, because today the company has turned round and said that it's all going here. But there is bigger concern than that, because people are now wondering about the future, and as we enter this 90-day consultation period, there's great uncertainty about that.
Paul, thank you very much indeed. If you're watching tonight and you work here, maybe you work in there, maybe you run a business locally or live in Brough, if you want to be in touch with your thoughts, here's how to get in touch. If you want to email in, looknorth@bbc.co.uk. The text number is 81333. Start the message with the word Look North, or follow me on Twitter, Peter_Levy, and tweet away. Thank you for watching tonight. Still to come on this evening's Look North. Labour MPs and union officials criticise the way that job losses have been handled by BAE. And we look back at the iconic planes built in Brough as the plant works on its final orders. Well, weather-wise, it has been an absolutely fantastic day. The sun is only just going down here at Brough, and somebody wrote to me earlier saying nobody likes weather forecasters when the weather is good because they're very, very smug. Good evening, young